Hello everybody, welcome to a new episode. This time I'm building a ride called Toxic Overload, and basically this ride is designed and based around Lost Gravity, which is a MACK coaster at Walibi Holland. And so I've actually ridden Lost Gravity. I thought it was absolutely an amazing ride, really smooth. The elements were super unique and crazy, and the airtime was great. So all around for me it was a really good roller coaster, actually kind of on par with Taron. So yeah, it was really good. So I'm trying to basically create a very similar style roller coaster in Parkitect using no mods, and I've gone for the vertical dive coaster in the game because I think it resembles the coaster the most, and with the track style, etc., and the cars. So although this is typically a kind of go slower Eurofighter type of coaster, I am just kind of using it to make the style of a MACK Big Dipper coaster. So MACK Big Dippers, they have lots of airtime, some hang time, and a few inversions here and there. So that's kind of what I'm going for. There is no kind of vertical lift hill or a vertical drop, so I've gone for a standard traditional lift hill with a swooping diving drop, and tried to pop in some airtime hills throughout the track. So that's basically the layout done. So now I'm going to go around and do like basically a rip-off from Lost Gravity, but I'm going to use green instead of yellow and do a stripy track. So just do that by selecting pieces of the track along the way. Sometimes you click the wrong piece by accident, so you just go back in at the end with the black colour and just fill in those pieces. So there is the paint job done. The green's quite hard to see because of the green grass, but once I've put all the scenery in, it will look better, sorry. So I've gone for like a similar theme as well. I wanted to play around with the whole kind of shipping container idea, and so I've gone for maybe like a toxic nuclear plant kind of thing that's maybe abandoned, and the coaster is all kind of amongst all the overgrown foliage and the buildings, and so I've named the ride Toxic Overload. So yeah, basically the kind of thing I'm going for, and it's going to be like a kind of a warning, keep out kind of zone where you can kind of go in at your own risk, and then it's the roller coaster. So that's the general theme idea, very similar to Lost Gravity in a way, I guess. But yeah, the main thing for this, I thought it'd be cool to build some shipping containers using the corrugated iron pieces from the game. So before I do that, which will be later on in the video, I'm just going to do all the other bits first. So I'm going to add catwalks using the roof pieces here. So this is something I found out I could do on my last video, building Black Dragon. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. But yeah, this worked really well, and I think it's the better option for making catwalks with no mods. In the Hang 10 video I did some other kind of catwalks using some half tile pieces and things, but it didn't really work out with the fences and stuff, and I wasn't crazy about those catwalks, so I've discovered this way, and I'm sticking with this for future ideas because I think this looks a lot better. So sometimes in this video I'm going to do some time lapse as well, just to speed through the boring bits, because I know what it's like sitting through me placing every single support, etc. So as in my previous videos, I shall show you me building like a couple of supports, doing a few things, placing the footers, etc. And then for the rest of the ride I'll just whiz through it in a time lapse, because you've seen me do it 100 times. So I thought some head choppers and some near misses would be cool throughout the ride. So this is my first kind of head chopper, and it's the dive loop, which is going to go into this kind of rock structure, and also the first drop will come over the top of it, so I'm going to try and put some things sticking out as well, just to make it look a bit tight there to fit through. So this is the first of many kind of head choppers that I plan to put throughout the coaster. At the moment of this build, I am not really sure what I'm doing. I know in my head that I kind of want to do like a shipping container abandoned site, but I'm not really sure actually what it's going to consist of. I've not done any drawing or anything of or a plan, so I'm just going to go through all the pieces and just see kind of what comes to me and what speaks to me. So I thought the corrugated iron pieces were really cool, and I thought they would be the best thing to use throughout this theme of the ride. So I thought this would be another good little head chopper, kind of near miss. So I'm doing like a structure here where the track passes through, and the same one over here, slightly bigger one, where the outward bank turn, which is also, I didn't mention before, sorry, is also something else that these MACK coasters do. They like to have these slow down outward bank curves, which actually feel quite strange when you're on them, but they're very unique, and that's just very, very cool. So now I'm going to use the shapes to create some things. So I thought that'd be quite a cool roof. I wanted to do like a dome. My actual original idea was to do like these big kind of, what are they called? Like a dish, like a satellite dish on top of each of these roofs. Now that didn't really go to plan. I actually built one later on in a different way, but I kind of wanted them tilted so that they would be pointing in different directions, but that's not possible in the game. So I've just kind of gone for like a weird dome roof, but it's fine, it's not really obvious when I've done everything else around it. Now I'm going to use the cylinder. I thought it'd be cool to make some like chimneys with had some fire coming out or something, so I thought it'd be cool to add like another element into the ride, so fire would be cool. And seeing as there is like a fire jet in the prop section, I could use those. So I'm just doing some over there and then two more smaller ones here. I thought it'd be cool here to do another kind of near miss head chopper. And then I'm going to use this disc from the shape section to make a flanger. I'm going to put this throughout the chimneys just to give it a bit more kind of realistic structure looking kind of esque thing. So I'm just going to join these chimneys up to actually make it into a head chopper, so the people on the ride think they're going to hit their head on it, but actually they're not. So at the moment I'm not really too happy at this point with everything. I think it's a bit random and everything's kind of placed, spread out, and I'm not too sure what's going to happen. But that's all a part of it, I guess. So I'm just going to keep kind of putting things down at random, trying to tie things together and just kind of see what happens. This whole build was trial and error, including the layout. That was kind of just, I started off kind of very similar to Lost Gravity with the layout, and then I changed it up halfway through to do my own version because I didn't want to do like an exact copy. So I thought it'd be cool to have some like walkways as a scenery to like cross over the track or under the track to give the whole kind of thing some more dynamics. So this is basically like just a little fake platform thing. So now I'm going to go back and try this kind of satellite dish idea that I had. So I thought it'd be cool to use the disc and then this cone in the middle to give it the look of like a disc. And then I thought I'd use some poles in the border pieces to kind of make those bits that stick out. But I did it on the wrong part of the grid so that the border pieces couldn't really fit. So I'm going to whiz through this again and do it in the correct position. So I put like a ball on the bottom to make it look like it can rotate on an axis. So that's kind of that. I'll go back to that later on and add some more stuff around it when actually I know what I'm doing. So I thought these pipes would be good from the detail section. Can't really go wrong with the pipes, so just kind of put them at random places throughout the scenery just to give it something like a level of detail. So now I'm going to kind of add some like walkways, as I've said I was going to do before, just to kind of join up the different areas to make it all one connected thing. So I thought these structure ladder pieces were cool. I could add those in around the areas just to give it some more kind of structure. And then I thought I'd try and add in these kind of scaffold things. Now, they're actually wooden, and I didn't really want to put much wood into this design. But I feel like maybe it adds like another colour into the mix, because at the moment it's very grey and black. And I mean, only the track has that hint of green every now and then. So maybe, I think like the wood maybe breaks it up a little bit. Especially when I add the foliage in as well, I think it will break up all that grey and black. So now I'm just going to go in Terra Paint, just going to plot down the areas that I want grey, and then go back in with the triangle Terra Painting tool and just kind of make it look not so square and more random. So that was really quick with the time lapse there. I didn't want to show you too much because it's really boring. And now it's kind of the same with the supports. I'm going to show you these 3 supports using the pillars. So I'm using the chunkier pillar to make the actual support, and then I use a slightly thinner pillar and I pop it in the top to connect the support to the track. So I'm just going to show you these 3 or 4 supports, and then the rest of the coaster I shall whiz through with a time lapse later on. And I'm going to use my footer here that I made as a blueprint. You can download those from the Steam workshop on my Steam page. And basically just going to plop these down under the supports as a footer. So that's that done. Now I'm just going to go around and add some random details to things just to make it look a bit more like there's actually something. Like this corrugated iron tower here is very random and kind of alone by itself, so I'm just trying to add some more stuff onto the side of it. So I thought I'd just join up the chimneys to the tower using like a small kind of warehouse thing. So I'll put the roof on that later on. So I'm just going to pop some walls down on the station. I don't actually start the station until later on in the video. And then I'm going ahead here and making some shipping containers. Now I thought it'd be cool to use the corrugated iron pieces and then just kind of stack some on top of each other. So this will actually purpose as the exit there. And then I'm going to do some more here just to fill up that gap. And then I'm also going to stack some shipping containers as the entrance to the ride as well. Before I put down the entrance ones, I'm just going to build the queue line so I know where to put the entrance shipping containers. So now I know where I want them. I'm just going to change the colour of some of them just to give them more kind of character, and also to add more colours into the ride rather than just the blacks and greys. So I've got a few blue ones, a few red ones and a few yellow ones and a grey one there. I'm just kind of keep the colours really kind of diluted and not so bright, because I don't feel like they would be bright on a shipping container. I'm just going to pop the floors and the roofs onto them in the corresponding colour for each shipping container. So there's not actually a corrugated diagonal roof piece, which I find quite strange because there's diagonal pieces for the other roofs. So I've had to go with the flat kind of non-textured roof for the diagonal shipping container there, but you don't really notice. So now I'm just going to go in and do like the borders around them. I feel like shipping containers have this kind of thick iron piece around the edges and on the corners, so I'm just doing that. and then adding a door on each end of one because they have those double doors on the shipping containers as well. So I'm just putting a door piece and then a wall piece so it looks like there's a door, and just layering those two pieces on top of each other. So that's basically that. Now this chain link fence is really great for the style of the ride, so I'm using that throughout the whole attraction. I've put it around the areas that are quite low to the ground, and then I'm going to do it around the edges of the queue line as well to stop people from getting into dangerous areas. So now onto the station. I'm going to whiz through this with a time lapse because it took me a really long time. This was probably the longest part of this whole build. And so this was like mega trial and error. I did not know what I was doing at all. So I'm just going to play around with the pieces that are kind of used already, like corrugated iron pieces, and just to see what kind of happens. So I'm using the square block from the shapes to change the color of the floor of the station. I'm just going to kind of play around with the roofs, see what looks good. And then when I'm happy with the roof shapes, then I shall go in and add all the walls, etc. I'm just going to do a quick transfer track here. I noticed that on Lost Gravity that the transfer track is actually at the beginning of the ride, before the lift hill, whereas quite a lot of rides, as you'll notice on some B&M coasters, etc., the transfer track is actually at the end of the ride on the brake run. So I've tried to put a small transfer track in there just before the lift hill, and put some beams in there to make it look like the track could slide across. So I wanted to try and get some glass in there. I think glass is quite an industrial thing, but it wasn't really working out. I put some panes of glass on the higher roof there. I ended up getting rid of those and just sticking with the framed glass windows around the back of the maintenance shed there, and I also put some on the actual main station as well. And then I thought the pieces from the hangar set would be quite cool to add some details in and some kind of framework, just to really give it that industrial looking look. So I thought it'd be cool to add another little chimney here on top of the station with another flame. So I tie in the station to the rest of the scenery that I've already built. And then it's going to add the grey terra painting around the bottom of it. So I thought it would also be cool to put a bridge across one of the low parts of the track where people can kind of stand and look, like a viewing platform. So I put one here at the bottom of this kind of over leaning banked top hat, which is actually quite awkward, but I reckon it'd be quite fun to ride that. The one on Lost Gravity is like a funny banana looking thing, and I remember seeing it being built and I thought, what is that? Like, that's never seen that before, that's weird. And actually when you ride it, it's really strange but really cool, and it's actually a weird feeling that I've not had on any other roller coasters. It's really bizarre, it doesn't feel natural at all, but it's really unique. So I tried to put something similar to that into this coaster. So I'm just going to support the bridge at the bottom of this top hat. So now I'm going to go around with the bush and get rid of all the supports throughout the whole coaster. There's not actually many left because a lot of the scenery has actually got rid of a few of them. I'm basically going to whiz through and just get rid of the ones I don't want, because some of them are green and some of them are black. And I think the ones that are in game are actually too thin and they don't look so good. So I like to kind of, as you know, make my own. So using the bush actually eliminates the supports that you don't want. You might find that you have to save the game and then reopen it again, because some of the supports, when you reopen the game, find a new place to go. So I always save it and reopen it so that all the supports that I have got rid of are definitely gone. So I'm doing a quick time lapse here of just building all the supports as I did before earlier in this episode. I'm just placing down the chunkier pillar and then going in with the thinner one at the top to connect the track to the support, and then adding my footer from the blueprint section into the bottom of each support. And as I said before, my blueprint of the footers can be found in the Steam Workshop on Parkitect. There are 3 types of footers. There is one in the middle of the square, one for the corners of the square, and then one that goes on the cross section of the grid. So you can just kind of make your own blueprints of each one of those individually and then place them down for each support. So that's that done. That's all the supports and all the footers in. Just going to add some TVs along the queue line so people don't get bored. It would be really cool to see this queue line completely full up of people waiting. I don't know if that is actually possible in the game, to have that many people in a queue line. But let's just say it would be cool if that would happen. So I'm just going to add some umbrellas under parts of the track that cross over the paths. So I always like to add like a third colour into this kind of thing. So I've got the greens, got the black and the greys. So just to say there's not really much green, so it just says black and grey. And then when I do the canopies and things, I like to add another colour in. So here I'm using yellow, which I'm not happy with, so I'm going to change it. But it just adds like that third colour into the mix just to make it more interesting. So I quite like the red of the shipping containers, so I'm going to use that as well for the canopies. And I just think it adds like another pop of colour and it looks much better. So foliage time, I'm just going to go around with all the bushes and just put them in places randomly, kind of gather them up around where the buildings are. I still haven't put the roof on that building there, but I will do it later on. I haven't forgotten. So I'm just going around with the bigger bush here, which is a slightly different green to the other bush I used, so it adds a bit more kind of dynamic to the bushes and the colours. So I thought it would be cool to add the ivy on some of the sides of the buildings and the shipping containers to give it that look that they really are abandoned and they've been there for a long time and the plants have been able to grow on the sides of them. If you do the ivy at different kind of heights, it gives it that more kind of realistic look rather than it all being at the same level. So it's not actually in this footage, but I did actually use one mod in this, and it was the letters mod from the Steam Workshop, just to write the name of the attraction on the front of the shipping containers there. So if you do download this ride from Steam and place it in your park, it will have the letters on the front if you have the letters mod installed. If you don't have the letters mod installed, then the letters won't show up on the front of the ride, but it literally is the only mod I use, so it really doesn't matter. I'm just going to go back out through the attraction with some trees, and I actually found out that you can lower these trees at different levels in the ground. So if you put them really low down, they look like giant bushes. So I'm going to do that with some green trees, but I'm just going to go around with the browns as well. And now I've found out that you can lower it down and create a bigger bush, which is really cool. I mean, it's basically the attraction done. I just have to do the final turnaround before the brake run, as it's kind of out on a limb and by itself. So I'll do that in a second. I just need to add some kind of that dark greeny brown colour first to the terrain, just to give it some more colour. I feel like where the plants would be, it'd be a bit more brown. Finally, I'm adding the roof onto this building. Now I made a quick blueprint of the shipping container, and a piece of the roof is missing, but it doesn't matter. I'm basically just going to create a similar look to what I've already done and put some shipping containers on the final curb before the brake run, just so that that part of the ride isn't kind of not got any theming or nothing to it. So I think it's good to have something there. Now I shall finish up that turnaround with some foliage, so it's not just bare with the shipping containers there. And that is basically this ride complete. This was actually quite a fun one to build. I really enjoyed doing this one, and it actually took me about 2 hours and 20 minutes altogether to make the whole thing. I really didn't get stuck with it. Like, quite a lot of the time when I make these rides and videos, like the last video I did with the Black Dragon actually took me like 6 hours or something silly like that, because I do the layout over and over because I'm not sure the layout, and then with the theming I really don't know what I'm doing, and I have to look online and look at some things to get inspiration. Or, you know, I tried to build that Japanese pagoda and I had to look online at some to get an idea of what actually I was building. So these things take a little longer, whereas with this attraction I really kind of knew what I wanted to do from the beginning, so I just kind of went ahead with it. And although I wasn't sure at the beginning with what I was building with the theming and stuff, I just kind of went with it and to see what kind of ended up. And what I have built actually I'm now happy with. I think it's not too bad. So here is the finished ride. I'm just going to let you watch the train go around the track a few times at different angles. But thanks for watching, it's been real fun to build. You can find this on the Steam Workshop to download. It's called Toxic Overload. And again, thanks for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you all next time. And also, before I go, write down below what you'd like to see me build. If you have any ideas that I could do, that'd be great to hear from you. So I'll see you next time. Bye.